you guys, it's Courtney. I'm here with a junior Sabbath school lesson today. So today's story is really cool. It's got a few different people in it. We've got Nabal, David, and Abigail. This is one of my favorite stories, especially for girls and women. We have a Bible book series called Bible Bells, and they go into this story amazingly in that book. So girls, look into the Bible Bells collection, book collection. It's really awesome. And you guys, this story is just as much for you as it is for girls. You could put yourself in Abigail's shoes or in David's shoes. It's important for us to look at what David did right as well. And also, we can always learn from other people's mistakes, like Nabal's mistake of being kind of rude. So we have our power text here today. He has showed you, O mortal, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? To act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. Let me read that again. He has shown you what is good, and the Lord requires of us what? Act justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with God. And this is from Micah 6. So what we want to learn from this today, the point of this lesson is that God's grace empowers us to treat other like family, to treat each other like family, and to treat each other fairly and kindly, politely, all the lees that are positive. We want to treat other people in that way. We want to be just and merciful and humble. And when we let God into our hearts, He empowers us to do that in big ways and in small ways. So the story is about David being short of food. And so he sent 10 men to Nabal to ask for some supplies. So David had given a very polite and respectful speech for his men to deliver to Nabal. And he told them to wish peace on Nabal and to explain they hadn't taken any animals of his, and to talk about how they had actually protected him. They've protected Nabal. But Nabal, he did not have a very good nature about him. He didn't really think twice about what David had said, and all he could think about was himself. And man, he did not want to give away anything for free. "Who is this David?" he bellowed. "How do I know these men aren't just runaway servants? Why should I give them anything of mine?" So he's just automatically assuming the worst, being greedy, and just not even thinking, like, even for a second, that he's going to help these people. So when David's men returned, he was angry. He's like, "Are you serious? Have you ever been in a situation where, like, someone just treats you badly when you've tried to do something good for them? And it's like, are you kidding me right now? What?" He got angry. He was so angry. So David was like, "Get ready to fight. We're fighting him. We're attacking. He felt so insulted, and he wasn't going to ignore it. So 400 hungry men set off for Nabal's home. So not only are they irritated, right, that they were treated so poorly after protecting him, but they were hungry, so they were grouchy. You get grouchy when you get hungry. I know I can get grouchy when I get hungry, so I'm sure that they did too. So 200 stayed back to guard their camp. So meanwhile, at Nabal's home, one of his servants who had met David's men in the wilderness went quietly to Abigail, which is Nabal's beautiful and intelligent wife. "Mistress," he wailed, "David sent messengers to give our master his greetings, but he hurled insults at him." So he's giving Abigail all the details about what's happened. And oh my goodness. So Abigail just whirled into action. She didn't even pause. And she had plenty of experience as a peacemaker, which is so important. Trying to always be a peacemaker, whether it's you making peace with someone yourself or helping others to make peace. So Abigail started thinking about, okay, well, if I cook this, so, okay, how much do they need? So they actually had 200 loaves of bread, 2 skins of wine, 5 sheep ready for the fire, 37 liters of roasted grain, 100 cakes of raisins, and 200 cakes of pressed figs. How many donkeys would need to carry it? She did not stop until all of the provisions were on the trail heading up the mountain ravine. So she's like, oh, Nabal, not again. He's always messing stuff up, making people angry. She's like, I am going to be, she was so brave for it to go out there, because David's coming down the ravine, and man, he's ready. But then he saw this long donkey train, and the beautiful woman was riding on it, which we know is Abigail. And as she saw David and his men coming toward her, she stopped the train, got off her donkey, and bowed to the ground. Talk about humble and brave. I mean, I would be terrified approaching this army of some really angry, hungry people. She says, let this gift which your servant has brought to my Lord be given to the men who follow you. Please forgive your servant's presumption. The Lord your God will certainly make a lasting dynasty for my Lord, because you fight the Lord's battles, and no wrongdoing will ever be found as long as you live. Even though someone is pursuing you to take your life, the life of my Lord will be bound securely in the bundle of the living by the Lord your God. But the lives of your enemies he will hurl away as from the pocket of a sling. That comes from 1 Samuel 25, verses 27 to 29. So what happens here? Well, David is thinking like, she's right. He was about to take matters into his own hands instead of letting God handle it. And so David and his men gladly accepted the food and that Abigail had brought, and carried it back to their stronghold. And that night, Abigail didn't tell Nabal what almost happened. He was too not doing so well. The next morning she told him, and he was so afraid that his heart failed him and he became paralyzed. 10 days later, he died. When David heard, he was glad that he had taken Abigail's advice and left things in God's hands. So it wasn't necessarily that God killed him, but because of his poor choices, he was really drunk that night, it says. Because of his poor choices, he led himself to his own death. But it wasn't on David's hands. David made the right choice, and he was merciful, even though he was so rude to him. So 1 Samuel, we've got all of these great stories, and I think this is such an excellent story. And so, we learn, don't be like a Nabal, right? Be humble and merciful, friendly, kind, giving, generous. We want to be like Abigail, be brave enough to stand up to an army, be brave enough and humble enough to approach someone and intervene when you know you can make a difference. This could be if you have two friends that are fighting and someone's about to do something, maybe gossip, right? Or even fight, like a physical fight. You can enter into that situation humbly and try to help your friends and say, look, just let it go. This is not your job to make them pay for something they did or didn't do. And then being like David, receiving that advice. If a friend is telling you something similar, you can stop and really listen and really try to understand what is the fair and right thing to do here. I love this story. It's so great. It's such a great example of what we are supposed to do in conflict, how to avoid conflict, how to help other people in conflict, and how to be humble enough to receive advice in a conflict for it to all be resolved. And most of all, everything is in God's hands. We don't need to always take action against others. God is the only judge. He is the one that will give and take away. And we can always trust him that if we're faithful servants to him, we are always safe and in his care. And that doesn't always mean that we're actually going to be physically safe all the time, but it means our salvation is secure. We have this beautiful hope of heaven, Jesus' return and bringing us up to heaven and having a new earth. We have this hope. So no matter what happens here on earth, God is with us and he cares, and we will be secure. I hope you have a great week. Thanks for talking with me about this story. I love it so much. If you want to learn more about it, you can go on GraceLink. juniorpowerpoints.net juniorpowerpoints.org, I believe. Let me see here. It's not telling me. I think it's .org. And they've got tons of resources, cool crossword puzzles and podcasts. So be sure to check that out and do the daily devotionals to think about it more and to really get into God's word deeper. All right. Hope you have a great week. Have a great Sabbath. I'll see you next time. Bye.